Hello guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to this amazing YouTube channel. My name is Lona and I'm a cloud support engineer. And in this video today, I want us to look at a small introduction to Argo CD, that is GitOps using Argo CD. So for anyone who would like to get started with learning Argo CD or using Argo CD, this is the video for you. It's basically for beginners because I did a very simple application just to show how you can easily get started with using Argo CD. So maybe if you are experienced with using Argo CD or any form of GitOps, you can also comment in the comment section and let us know how much you have experience on that and what do you use in your environment. But for this video, it's for someone who wants to get started with using Argo CD. So I did a very simple application that can help me to easily explain the first steps to go through. So I did my installation of Argo CD in a Kubernetes cluster. So I'm using AWS EKS cluster. Let me show you that. So on my AWS account here, I have an EKS cluster, which is this one. And this is where I've installed my Argo CD in a namespace called Argo CD. If you look at the documentation for installing Argo CD, it's very straightforward. You'll never go wrong with this one, especially when you're getting started. It gives very clear explanation of how you can install Argo CD, create the namespace Argo CD, run the manifest files, and it will be installed. And then there's a few things that you need to do. For example, you need to have Argo CD CLI for you to be able, for example, to retrieve admin password. So you need to install Argo CD CLI depending on the operating system that you're using. For me, I'm using Windows. So when you click on this link here, you'll be able to see the different versions of Argo CD CLI that you can install for your environment. So I'm going to also add this link on my description box so that you can easily access it. And then once you have Argo CD CLI installed, you can like retrieve admin password I've said, because the moment you go to your browser to access your Argo CD platform, you'll be needed to enter a username and a password, and you can use Argo CD CLI to retrieve that. It's also well explained in this documentation. Another thing you need to do is to expose your Argo CD so that you're able to access from the browser. For me, it was easy to expose using a load balancer, because in AWS EKS, it will easily create a load balancer for you. So if I can show you that, let me go to EC2 so that you can see that specific load balancer. Yeah, so this is the load balancer, and this is the DNS name. As you can see here, it's the one that I'm using to access my Argo CD from the browser. Another thing that you need to do is also to, this is the command that I was talking about for you to retrieve the username, the password for username admin, because admin is the default username. So once you have that, it's also important that you change that admin password. It is also documented here. You change the password using the command, that one, so you can easily change it. Once you do that, you need to register now your Kubernetes cluster where you're going to deploy the apps. So this is the command that you run to retrieve the context. kubectl config get context, or name if you have many contexts and you know which Kubernetes cluster do you want to deploy your app. So once you have that, you run this one to register your cluster for deploying apps. So it will be Argo CD cluster add and then the ARN of the context that you get from this command. And that is all. After that, you now have to create your application. So on once I was able to do all that on my Argo CD, I created an application, a very simple application. So let me show you that. This is the one. So if I go to details, you can see the project is default. This is my cluster. My applications will be deployed in this namespace called Apple1. And then this is my GitHub repository. I'll also show you what I have there. And all my applications or all my files are in the master branch. Then this is the path where I have all my files in my GitHub repository. And then what else do you put here? Actually, nothing more. So once you fill this stuff, like the project name, the cluster. So if it's the same cluster where Argo CD is running, you just have to use this one. There's a different explanation when you're using a different cluster from where your Argo CD is running. It's also in that documentation, so you can check that out. But for me, I just wanted to make it easy and deploy the application in the same cluster where Argo CD is running. So it's just simple to use this URL for the cluster. And I've said this is the namespace where my applications will be deployed. In this case, I'm just using a very simple Nginx application, so it will be deployed in app1 namespace. This is the URL for the repository where all the files are. It's in the master branch, and this is the path. I'm going to show you that. So once you have this, you click on create. Just make sure that you have everything okay, because if you click create and maybe this path is not right, or maybe you're using main instead of master, it's not going to kill, but you'll get an error to point out to you that this is maybe this is not okay, this is the problem, and you'll be able to correct that. So if I take you to my GitHub repository, and this is what I have. Let me close this. So I have the main folder called app1, and then inside app1 I have two other folders. I have app1 deployment, and then I have the resources. I'm using kustomize, so that's why I have these resources, and that's the reason why I was telling you that there's this small issue here, which I was also testing something using kustomize. I'm going to show you that. So for this app1 dash dep, this is my deployment. As you can see, it's just a simple Nginx deployment with two replicas. And then this is the namespace that's gonna, oh, sorry, this one is not, I was not using this one, sorry. So this is my customization file. Before we look at the customization file, let's look at the resources. So in the resources, I have a customization file, a limit.yaml, and a namespace.yaml, and resource quota.yaml. So you know how customization works, right? It's going to override some of the things that you want to be created in your class. You can read more about customization if you don't understand much about that. But it should, this is what I need to be deployed, but it will depend on what is here to create that deployment. So if you look at this customization.yaml file, I've said that these are the resources that I want to use, the namespace, which is here, limit, and resource quota. And this ones I'm just defining the quotas for my deployment. For example, if you look at this limits.yaml, I'm saying that for my deployment, I need to have a limit of CPU or 200M and memory 512 MI. And then for request, the same thing. And then this is the default namespace is default dev. But now, since my namespace will be app1, this customization file will be able to make use of what is here to override what's going to be in my namespace. And that's how customization works. So that's what I'm saying. If you maybe it's your first time using it, you can go and read more about customization. So if you look at this namespace, this is the default namespace called default dash dev, but my namespace will be called app1. I'll show you this customization file here. And then I have hard limits for resources on the namespace level. So for ports, it can only take up to 10 ports. It can only use CPU up to 800M, memory up to 800 MI for requests, and then for limit, the same thing. So at any given time, if I use this resource in my deployment, it will be going to make sure that for the namespace that will be created for my deployment, these are the hard limits for the resources that will be available in that namespace. So that's how really good to use customizations. So going to my back to my application up here, you can see that I've already shown you this. This is the simple Nginx deployment. And then for this customization, this is where I'm going to make use of the resources down here. So my namespace will be called app1, and then I'm going to make use of these specific resources. So you can see this is the path for these resources over here, and then up here I'm also going to make use of this deployment. So I'm going to make use of all these resources here. At the same time, I want to deploy this application of mine up here. So these are the changes that are going to happen or to be overridden in my deployment. So for example, the namespace, so instead of deploying or rather creating this default namespace, which was defined here in namespace, is going to replace with a value called app1 to create the namespace that I want. And then when we go to resource quotas, instead of applying those quotas to the default.dev namespace, they're going to be applied in my app1 namespace. So you can see replace. If you can see these limits over here, They were 200, 512, so I can actually override that and give it something else. So like here I'm giving it 700 for CPU hard, and yeah, I'm replacing limits.cpu for hard to be 700, replace limits.memory for hard to be 800, and then replace CPU for request to 600. Also replace request for memory to 600, and then replace the ports instead of 10. Remember, my main file had 10 ports per that namespace. In my own, for app one, it will be having 5, and this is the namespace name. So these are the specific information that's going to be used in my own namespace. So that's how customization works. So after that, I needed to push this one. So of course, I wrote all this on my VS Code, all this, and then I did git push to my repository, and then I have a webhook that connects my repository to Argo CD. So let me show you that webhook. So under settings on my repository, here we have webhooks. Click on that, and then this is the webhook which I created. So if I edit it just to show you some of the things that you need to, oh, sorry about that. The settings that I put there. So the payload URL is now the endpoint for my Argo CD, and then this is needed, this last part over here. Content type is JSON, and then my changes will be made during a push event. And then I also disabled SSL because I don't have any, though it's not recommended in a production environment. As I said, it's just for getting started, and then as you go ahead to applying your things in a production environment, of course, there are more things that you need to take care of. So this is my webhook, and so that every time I do a push, it's going to make changes to my my application in Argo CD. So that's the only thing that I needed to do. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I can clarify. So once I did that, and once I created the webhook and I did git push over here, my application was able to be created on Argo CD. And as you can see, this is what we have. My Nginx app application for Argo CD is now having my deployment, which is this one, Nginx app 1. As you can see from this deployment name here, I'm just calling it Nginx. So that's the Nginx deployment. So going back here, it was created. So you see the limits and all that. So it's bringing everything in that folder, because that's what I defined in the application here, so that I can show you again. This path here is the path from my GitHub repository. Let's just go back there. So it's in master branch, and this is it. Click on it. I'm interested in this because that is where my customization file is. So I'm interested in this path. So I just took this path and put it in the application. So the reason why this path will work is because I'm using customization here, which is already covering all this. So just one more time, I show you. These are the resources, and this is the path for these resources over here. So that's why that's why I'm giving this path to the application. So back to that's the path, and then it was able to sync, and it was able to create the Nginx deployment in my cluster. So let me show you that. So this is the command kubectl cat ports in the app1 namespace. You can see that I have one Nginx pod running. If I get deployment, which you expect to see that Nginx deployment, that is it. So as you can see, the error that I was showing you before is because Nginx deployment is only creating one. It's only creating one pod instead of two. So you can see one of two is ready. And of course, when you get the pod, you can see you only have one pod running. The reason for that is because of the limits, which I was testing. I was just doing my test using customization because it's also my very first time trying out customization. So I wanted to see if they are working. And that's why I came and put the limits over here, these limits over here, as well as these hard limits on the namespace over here. And then I added on my customization just to, to see that if it's working. And actually it's working, because you can see that it's not able to create the two ports. And the reason for that is because of the resource limits. Let me show you the error. So if I go to this port and I go to event, it will be able to see that it's actually failing because of resource limits. So the reason is it's forbidden because of it's exceeding quota for that application or that namespace. So I just was testing whether customizations are working for me, and yeah, that is I got that result, and it's working as expected. So basically that is it. It's quite easy if you're getting started with Argo CD or with any form of GitOps. Maybe you're using Flask or anything else. For me, I think I like Argo CD because of this interface. It's so easy to to navigate and see what could be happening with the applications. It's also easy to see, if it's synced, if it's not, the errors with the application, the errors with the ports and all that. So that's why I feel like I prefer Argo CD. I've used Flask CD before, but for some reason, I ended up starting to learn to use Argo CD because I feel like it's simpler to use compared to Argo CD. But I don't know. I think it depends on how much we have experience using them. So maybe you can comment also in the comment section and tell us, are you using Argo CD, are you using Flask CD? What are the differences and what makes you choose one tool from the other tools that are available? So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment sections. As I said last, for you to get started, kindly just follow this guide. Very, very straightforward. Once you're able to install, if you have a Kubernetes cluster, and you don't have to use EKS if you don't have an account, or maybe you're fearing the cost and all that because you're doing your test, you can actually have a simple Kubernetes cluster using something like VirtualBox. If you check on my videos, I've explained how you can create a Kubernetes cluster in VirtualBox. You can easily use that to do your test and to learn, so that you're not limited with the resources that you can use to learn, instead of going to AWS and creating an EKS cluster, and maybe you don't have money to pay for the resources you're utilizing. Because if you see for my account here, I had some, you see the cost usage just for doing this test already is this amount. But what I do just to minimize the cost is that every time I'm not using the Kubernetes cluster, I come and put the compute nodes to desired count to 0, so that at least it's not, these are not at least they get terminated mostly at night when I'm not using the cluster. So that's it from my end. Please comment in the comment section if you feel like maybe I didn't say something right. Also, you're free to correct me. I'm also this is also my learning path towards using Argo CD, and I thought maybe I should share this for someone who also wants to get started with using Argo CD. If you're an experienced user, please say something in the comment section. You feel free to correct me where I say something out of place or not really the correct thing. And also feel free to add anything about what you're using, how easy is it for you to run GitOps and all that. So I'll really be grateful. So make sure also you also subscribe to my YouTube channel, guys. I'm really looking forward to getting to 1,000 subscribers. Kindly consider subscribing, kindly share my videos, and give a like to the video so that it's also suggested to many people to watch. See you next time. Bye bye.